So welcome everybody to our session on work-based learning. Here with us today, we have Mark Dusky from the Public Education Department. He's going to go over all the basics of what work-based learning is. A few housekeeping announcements are, one, the session is being recorded. So if you'd like, you can keep your cameras off. I do have the Zoom set to speaker view, but it is your option to have your camera on or off. But either way, we do ask that you be participatory, whether or not you are able to unmute yourself if you have a question, or please feel free to type it in the chat and we'll be monitoring that chat throughout the session. Secondly, make sure that at the end of the session, you complete the attendance survey. That survey will give us valuable feedback, but it will also mark your attendance for being here. So that will enter you into our raffle for this conference. And if you're a MESA student, it'll also give you the required participation credit points. So with that, I will go ahead and pass it on over to start our session. Thank you.
Thank you, Anita. As Anita said, my name is Mark Dusky, and my current role is in the College and Career Readiness Bureau. And my role as a special projects manager actually involves work-based learning. And a couple of the initiatives that NM-PED has embraced to advance and begin to build some momentum for the importance of work-based learning as a preparatory step for students to complete their education in high school, actually even in middle school though, and then to move towards specific job training or college, as the case may be, for the students' career direction. Yesterday, I made a presentation on career exploration and introduced one of the tools that NM-PED has developed in order to encourage and facilitate middle school and high school students' ability to explore various career venues that overlap with their interests. I'll be covering some of that same information during this presentation, but the main thrust of this presentation is to give you some description of what work-based learning is all about. I titled it the ABCs of work-based learning, or WBL, to accentuate the fact that this is a very basic and a very ground floor introduction to work-based learning. If you are interested in obtaining greater detail of the nuances and intricacies of work-based learning, I would encourage you to reach out to me. My contact information will be available at the end of the presentation, or also that you explore work-based learning at your school. Whether your school be a middle school or a high school, there are counselors and teacher resources available to you by which you can find out more about any of the things that I'm going to speak to. By way of the agenda that I have for us this afternoon, I'm going to provide an overview of work-based learning, what it is by definition, also how it can be leveraged for career exploration and advancement into a career. What are some of the important factors or key takeaways from a work-based learning experience? I'll make a brief description or presentation on the two main work-based learning initiatives that our Bureau and PED are currently coordinating, and then also speak a little bit more about the direction that PED is hopefully heading with regards to work-based learning and its development in conjunction with our state's Department of Workforce Solutions. Lastly, I'll return to the idea of career exploration and the importance of individual components that you bring as a student to the table as you get more fully engaged in career exploration and hopefully a work-based learning opportunity that you can discover. So starting with the definition of work-based learning, New Mexico education, the Public Education Department, is governed by administrative code, and also superseding administrative code is statute or law. So the New Mexico Public Education Department takes its direction by what our legislators do in establishing the basis for educational law throughout the state. Statutes are established that establish basic things like educator quality, high school graduation requirements, and many, many other areas of education. And then New Mexico Administrative Code is written to provide further definition on the statutes. So pulling from Administrative Code, or NMAC as it's called, work-based learning is defined as activities that develop workplace skills. Could be tours, job shadowing, work experience rotations, mentoring, entrepreneurships, service learning, internships, co-ops, or youth pre-apprenticeships that are aligned with a registered apprenticeship program under the New Mexico Department of Workforce Solutions. Now, this is a very narrow definition, but it is a good groundwork by which we should engage the subject, because we would like for our internship opportunities or any other program opportunities that fall under the veil of work-based learning to be a collaborative effort between the efforts of New Mexico Public Education and also the Department of Workforce Solutions. If you look at the graphic I have up on the screen, it pretty much covers those terms that were identified in the New Mexico Administrative Code. And I'd like to speak on them just briefly, at least for a minute or so that you get an idea of the different facets that work-based learning can adopt. So the most straightforward and obvious work-based learning opportunity, of course, is an internship opportunity. And an internship opportunity is typically, it can be, all right, first off, it can be paid or unpaid as it goes. And it is typically an alignment with a specific employer that permits for a student to put in limited hours towards learning the particular business that or business organization engages in. So internships often will be supportive of specific learning that is going on at the school. Internships can support a particular facet of education, which is known as career and technical education. And I will get to a little bit more information about CTE, career and technical education, a little further into the presentation. Rotating up from internships, clinical experience is identified. Clinical experience would more typically revolve around opportunities available in the medical field or the healthcare field, where students may be able to go and observe or actually do hands-on practice within a clinical setting. This could be things like taking vital signs at a clinic. This can also take the form of doing specific laboratory work or laboratory observation of the work that is performed in the healthcare setting. Apprenticeship more typically revolves around trade opportunities, skilled trades, such as heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, or welding, or becoming an electrician. Apprenticeships oftentimes, but not exclusively, are aligned to unions that are present in the state of New Mexico. Also, though, apprenticeships can be aligned to non-union work opportunities in those skilled trades professions. When we talk then, moving still further around the circle, when we speak to the idea of cooperative education, or also known as and identified in the NMAC as co-ops, we're referring to basically an internship opportunity, but that also then will involve a certain component of civic stewardship. And what that means is getting involved in your local community on the basis of working with perhaps local government, whether it be municipal government or county government, or it can also involve just providing volunteer work to support community-based activities. So cooperative education, again, takes into consideration basically civic engagement with academic study and practical workplace experiences. Job shadowing may be self-evident, but job shadowing refers specifically to more of an observational aspect of work-based learning, where rather than doing an awful lot of hands-on activity, job shadowing is typically working with and alongside of an established professional person and observing the nature of their work and the specific activities and tasks that they perform. When we talk about service learning, next on the circle, again, we're specifically referring to the intersection of schoolwork with work in a business field or obtaining practical experience, as well as a civic engagement component. Learning by engagement is definitely one of the more promising methods that promotes education for sustainable development, which is to say sustainable development, meaning that we are able to train people in particular careers and for the future and develop youth into the professionals that are going to be needed for the next generation in the workforce. Students will oftentimes engage with specific concrete projects, again, that can be very much community-based in service learning. Continuing forward into mentorship, mentorship opportunities typically revolve around working with an educator adult, sometimes a business professional, in order to obtain insight about a particular career opportunity or field, or more generally, to also obtain insights into basically growth and development as a person, as a person who is engaged in wanting to be a gainful member of the community. School-based enterprise is specific to typically career and technical student organizations, or CTSOs. School-based enterprises probably are waning in the current environment in which we're operating, which is that with the pandemic having knocked students out of school for a longer period of time, many of the school-based enterprise activities may have had to shut down and may not have fully recovered yet as students have returned to the schools. But the basic idea of a school-based enterprise would be, for instance, in hospitality and restaurant management, as one example, students will run and operate a particular cafeteria enterprise, perhaps with a known and name brand fast food outlet. For instance, it could be in conjunction with Subway sandwiches, where basically the school-based enterprise is offering Subway sandwiches to students on campus as an alternative to using the cafeteria that is provided by the school itself. There are then opportunities for students to learn about entrepreneurship, as well as all of the various components of running a successful business operation. Externships are different from internships, obviously in term, but also in function. And most specifically, the major difference is that externships are typically unpaid opportunities that are offered to a student at any particular level. It can be in high school. It can also, though, be, and more commonly, in community college or in a university environment. The big differences between the two is that externships are more about advanced career exploration. It's about getting an overview of a career, versus internships, which typically are more about actually acquiring skills and experience in a given career field. Externships typically are about observation of a workplace, whereas internships are more likely to be involved in working with specific teams within that organization. Externships oftentimes are very short term, as measured in days or weeks, whereas an internship is typically a longer term engagement of a semester, a school semester, or a specifically summer program. Internships may or may not be credit bearing, whereas typically and pretty much in all cases, externships are not going to offer academic credit for participation. And as I mentioned before, externships are largely unpaid, whereas internships may be unpaid, but oftentimes they are paid. And then lastly, entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship just broadly refers to an opportunity to learn the fundamentals and the skills necessary in order to launch a successful business enterprise. I don't know what level of familiarity you have with much of the hearsay about launching businesses, but I think one of the more common things that's said about starting businesses is that, especially in the restaurant business, typically 1 out of 2 enterprises fail within the first 2 years of their launch. So a lot of times that will put people off of the idea of entrepreneurship. But at the same time, we are, again, going through a very different period in our societal development, such that it is being reported in all the media outlets that the so-called Great Resignation, where many people who have been in the workforce for a number of years, and also people just starting out into the workforce, are choosing entrepreneurship and business development, building their own businesses, versus working for established organizations and established companies. So entrepreneurship is another type of work-based learning experience, again, that can help a student build the skills and develop the insights necessary to launch their own business idea. Are there any questions about any of these specific categories of work-based learning?
I don't have a question necessarily on what you've gone over, but on your slide, I just want to make sure that you're just going around the wheel on your presentation, or are you switching your slide deck?
I had actually been, it wasn't switching the slide deck, actually. What was happening was that I was pulling in some information specifically on service learning and externships.
To make sure that we didn't have any technical difficulties, but you're going around the wheel or your circles, so
yes.
Just making sure.
Yeah, no worries. Yes, I just basically was moving from item to item, but I think what you saw was the fact that when I was trying to open up a window on my extended desktop, that it was showing on what I'm sharing. So, okay.
And there is a question in the chat. Again, I don't know if you see on your end, but how many students participate in these programs throughout the state?
I don't have a number for you on that as far as it goes. We are very much decentralized with the various facets of work-based learning, what I mean to say is that the primary authority for work-based learning is really the New Mexico Department of Workforce Solutions. They do track apprenticeships, but anything that is actually coming out of the education side of the house, which would be internships specifically, possibly externships, any entrepreneurship activities, school-based enterprises, that is not being actively tracked in a coordinated fashion. When I speak further into the presentation about where we're headed with NM-PED and internships or work-based learning, I'll have a little bit more to say about the planning that is taking shape at PED, moving towards this upcoming legislative session and the submission of PED's budget for fiscal year 2023. Sorry, that's a non-answer, but that's right now the best that I can do for you. I do have data on specifically the internship program that was launched this summer, and I'll get to that in terms of an exact figure for you in just a few slides. Any other questions or comments? Okay, moving forward then, I'd like to say that the idea of pursuing a work-based learning opportunity presupposes that you're fairly familiar with career exploration. As I mentioned yesterday, I wanted to share out the career cluster guide that the NM-PED has developed that helps students to organize any approach to career exploration that they wish to make to gain familiarity with where their interests lay within a particular organizing structure. So the United States Department of Education and Training Administration, through the Department of Labor, has their own scheme whereby all of the world of work is broken into 16 career clusters. There is substantial overlap between the clusters, like for instance, between finance, business management, administration, between information technology, which typically supports business management and administration in all organizations. Also, there's a great deal of overlap between marketing, sales, and service, and business management and administration. But for convenience sake and for just basically being able to organize career pathways, the 16 career clusters works pretty well. There are alternative systems of organization, but I will not get into those because this is the one that the education field leans most heavily on. So as you can see, the 16 career clusters are identified on this particular slide. Also on the next slide, they will also be identified on the far left column, career cluster. There is a description. This is a screenshot or a view from the career cluster guidebook. And then also I wish to inform all that there are specific career pathways that are subordinate to the career cluster at large. So it's basically a narrowing down the focus of a career cluster into its subordinate pathways. And that a lot of times when you're thinking about work-based learning and how it may fit with a particular cluster, it actually would do you well to consider specific career pathways and identify the ones that are of greater interest to you. In other words, the more you can narrow down the nature of your interests, the more likely it is that you'll be able to pinpoint a potential opportunity with an organization that will be addressing your specific interests. So this information is all available free of charge on the New Mexico Public Education Department's website. Also, hard copies of the book itself, which is in its 3rd edition, are also available to all students throughout the state of New Mexico. We still have cases and cases of the 3rd edition available. If you're interested in obtaining a hard copy, I would encourage you to still go to the web page, and I'll show the link in just a moment. Also, this slide deck will be made available to anybody who's interested in having a copy of it so that you can have it as a reference. After this presentation, probably tomorrow, I will email Anita copies of both yesterday's presentation or slide deck as well as today's. So you can see each of the 16 clusters is broken into career pathways, and each of the pathways also has description in the guidebook so that you can get a better handle on, for instance, what merchandising is within marketing, sales, and service. As I mentioned, you can get the Career Clusters Guide for yourself in an electronic version by visiting the College and Career Readiness Bureau's web page within the larger PED website by following this particular link. webnew.ped.state.nm.us is the PED's website. And then if you click into the Bureau's links and find College and Career Readiness, you will be taken to a page that is exactly looking like this. On the right-hand side are hyperlinks and column that you can use to direct yourself towards the Career Clusters Guidebook, pictured on the right side of this particular view, this page. And so what you would do is when you land on the College and Career Readiness Bureau site is you would basically click on the drop down for counselors and advisors. And right beneath it, where you can see it in a other color, a turquoise color, you can click on the hyperlink career clusters. That will take you to the page that is being displayed right now in this slide deck. Then, if you follow the blue hyperlinks to the New Mexico Career Clusters Guidebook, you can obtain the electronic version. Similarly, you can also obtain the electronic version in Spanish, which is featured just below this paragraph. Also, if you're interested in a hard copy, I would direct you towards speaking with your school administration, your school counselor, to see if they have copies of the book on hand. If they do not, you can ask them to actually visit this page and fill out the order form, and we will be happy to get books to your school. So we've talked about the structure of career exploration, 16 career clusters, career pathways, but how would you go about taking the first step to begin work-based learning? Because I really haven't told you, and we don't have a catalog of work-based learning opportunities that are available to students throughout the state of New Mexico. So as I already mentioned and showed you the guidebook, you would want to start by beginning to engage career exploration and really sort of pinning down some of your career interests. There is a tool in the guidebook that's referred to as an interest profiler. That particular resource is available in a pen and paper version in the guidebook, but is also available electronically if you were to visit, again, the United States Department of Labor, Education and Training Administration website. You can find an electronic version of it that you can take that's a little more comprehensive. But either tool will suffice to begin to help you to identify your career interests. As I say, use available resources to gain greater familiarity with the fields you're interested in. Remember, if you can, as you're browsing things, try to retain some of the descriptions, some of the pathways identified with description in the resources, so that you can begin to develop the ability to speak about your interest more confidently. The confidence piece is really important at the personal level for young people, because a lot of times young people can be easily intimidated by the adult world, by the world of work. And it's important for you to begin to try to let some of those anxieties and some of those fears go, so that you can actually just be relaxed in your ability to move forward in the direction that your interests take you. As I've already said, speak to your school counselors at your middle school or your high school to see if there are career and technical education programs that would help you develop your career interests. Not all high schools are going to have a full offering of all of the potential career and technical education areas that are available, but you can, of course, see what your school has available. If the CTE offerings do not match to your interests, then you would want to, of course, speak to your school counselor about academic coursework that will support the direction that you wish to head in for your career interests. Now, what you might be hearing, and I will validate, is the fact that you really have to be assertive and drive your own interests, drive your own situation. If you're more laid back and less likely to be assertive for what you're interested in, this probably will be something that will not just come to you. I would encourage you that if you find something that really, really sparks your interest, that you just take charge of your situation and reach out to the resources you need in order to find more information about not only the career interest or area, the field itself, but also the opportunities that you might be able to make available to yourself through talking to adults. And this can be at your school, and this can also even extend into the world of work by approaching people who are engaged in these businesses. But again, you can lean on other adults at the school level to help make introductions for you. And I'll also have some more information for you about networking and the value of participating in a work-based learning opportunity, such that you can get to other adults that can help you find out more about that particular career field. The amount of time you spend with your career interests will definitely increase your insight into whether it really represents a good fit. Get involved. That's pretty much what I've already said. Get involved in any activities that are going to help build your confidence in yourself, your sense of can do, and reduce the potential for anxiety and fear and feeling uncertain about your future. It's very easy to get overtaken by these psychological issues, and it's far better for you to recognize that as a potential trap and then just train yourself and work with yourself and your thinking in order to overcome those issues. One such example might be looking for presentation opportunities or public speaking opportunities to build your confidence. You may stumble, you may not have a good presentation, but it will make you that much stronger for the next presentation if you're willing to get off the ground and get back on the horse. So why are work-based learning experiences of value to students, to young people as they develop their interests, as they pursue their interests? Well, obviously it's an elevation of your interest to a more serious level. If you're actually engaging in any of the formats, internships, job shadowing, then you're gaining real world firsthand experience in that career area. You may come to find out that it really isn't for you, and that is very natural, that is very normal. I will point out the caveat at the bottom of this slide. Remember, pursuing work-based learning experiences does not commit you to having to continue in that career pathway. You can withdraw, you can change the pathway in a career cluster, or you can change the entire cluster at any time. Rather, getting involved is going to help you get closer to your goals in a shorter time frame than if you delay it until you graduate high school and begin to enter post-secondary types of educational experiences, again, at the community college level or with an apprenticeship with a union perhaps, or whatever the case may be. Basically, by getting involved early, you're getting ahead of the curve, if you've ever heard that expression. And that just means that you're gaining ground on the goal earlier rather than later. This is really important because I can tell you again from my own experiences, and I'm sure many of the other adults that you will speak to in this regard, that in our generation, my generation anyway, because many of the adults you might speak to are younger than myself, but in my generation, this was all delayed until college for me as I went to college, because I did well academically in school. And so I was able to go to a university and then ended up gaining some of this work-based learning experience with hands-on experiences at the university. So for instance, I was a intern for a summer with a psychology laboratory where basically we were doing experiments on vision with animals. And I came to find out that that was not something I was interested in after doing it for a summer. I satisfied the requirements of the internship, but then it helped steer me away from that particular area of psychology research, which is working with the animals. So all of the work-based learning experiences that you can obtain will be helpful to helping you sort of steer yourself in the place that you are more likely going to find yourself satisfied, at least for a particular period in your life or in your work career. So what are some of the key takeaways? Well, I probably could have given you the entire alphabet, but I said the presentation was the ABCs of WBL. So I've restricted it on this slide to just the first 5 letters of the alphabet. And some of the most important are the first 5 that I would identify. And this is acquiring the foundation of employability skills. Does anybody, can anybody say what we mean by employability skills? What is meant by that term? Anybody? Okay, well, basically employability skills are also known as soft skills. And soft skills just relate to your ability to relate to other people on a very relaxed, kind of comfortable level, where you basically are conscientious, you're establishing yourself and emphasizing a professional skill set that might be a little bit different from how you relate to your brothers and sisters at home, or maybe it's more like when you're relating to with your grandmother, maybe it's or your grandfather. That might be something a little bit more close to employability skills or soft skills, which is to say that you're attending to being polite, to pronouncing and using the language as best as you can so that you're communicating effectively. It's also things that employers really find valuable, such as showing up for your appointments on time, and having a sense of punctuality as being important. Also, being what is oftentimes or sometimes referred to as word to bond, which means that you do what you say you're going to do. These are all employability skills that employers, one, always tell us are what is most lacking with young people, okay? And then also number two, that they would like the education system to most acutely or to focus on in the development of high school students to young working adults. So a work-based learning experience is going to, just by being in the environment, you're going to absorb and soak in the behaviors of the people that you're interacting with at that particular organization. B, you'll be able to start to build a resume of real work world experiences and hands-on skills. If you do an internship, even again, if it's only for a semester or a summer, you're still able to put it on a resume, identify what you did, who you did it for. You might also have been able to come out of the experience with somebody who you got along with very well at that organization, such that they're willing to extend a professional courtesy to you in the way of a reference, so that if you're applying for another job, even if it's in a different field, even if it's not a serious, let's say, career track type of position, you have got somebody who is willing to vouch for for who you are as a worker, and also who you are as a person. And that leads us, actually skips us over to D, but I'll get to that in a moment. So C would be connecting schoolwork to the world of work. So it's bridging that so that you begin to see why, by way of graduation requirement, by way of the laws of the state of New Mexico, we're asking our students to take algebra. What is the connection between schoolwork and the world of work? Well, they're there. It might be a little bit more remote for something like abstract like algebra, but the connection is there. And really, an argument could be just quickly made for the development of your ability to be a better critical thinker. If you are able to perform abstract math operations just in algebra, you are going to become a more intelligent individual in your ability to use the language, to process thought, and to solve problems. Because solving problems is, by and large, what most of us will get paid for in participation in the world of work. Back to D, developing a professional network of people familiar with you and your work. That is one of the most important things you can gain from any work-related experience, is the development of contacts, a network of people that know you and know your work, and that are willing to both help you find work, perhaps, or at least help you know if where they work is looking for any workers that you might be, positions you may be eligible for. And then, of course, being able to act as a reference for you. Almost every serious employment situation is going to ask for you to provide a person or persons who are familiar with you interpersonally, professionally, academically, perhaps, in any facet of your life that you have participated in up to that time. So this is an advantage of taking advantage of work-based learning experiences as well. And then lastly, while we said that not all work-based learning opportunities like co-ops and externships provide earnings, There are some that do, and you can direct yourself towards those specific opportunities if earning is a priority for you within the context of your family situation. I mean, everybody would like to earn money for the work that they do, but it should be noted, and you should be aware that typically when you're starting out, your workplace value or your marketplace value is not considerably high, but that the more experiences you have, especially even in developing employability skills, the sharper you become with employability skills definitely has a marketplace value and sets you apart from much of your competition, of your peers who have not been paying attention to this messaging about the importance of these soft skills. So yes, internships can offer money for the work that you're asked to perform. Are there any questions or comments at this point? Okay, I will continue forward and specifically tell you about what's been happening with the PED and the specific initiatives that PED has begun to undertake that you might be interested in participating in, depending on your age. And the first is that I'd like to tell you about the fact that as a part of the pandemic that has derailed so many of our human activities in the last 2 years, that the United States federal government provided a major funding relief bill from our Congress that has provided money out to every one of the 50 states as pass-throughs for this relief funding to get directly into supporting the quality of life of everybody in the United States. So one particular way that these funds have been applied have been through pass-through from the state government to the public education department. And so one of the initiatives that was formed this past year was what is referred to as the Summer Enrichment Internship Program. We launched this program in the May-June timeframe of this past summer, where the internships were launched at the county and tribal government level, with just one exception. And basically, we were able to, on a very, very short notice basis, get 1,300 high school students into internship opportunities this past summer between the months of June through, in some cases, September of this year. So it was quite a heavy lift, to be quite honest. I was the so-called project manager for this internship program. And so the good news is, well, the bad news is that this opportunity is over. The internships all closed, by September at the latest. But the good news is that actually the same program is going to be available because funds remain available for this forthcoming summer of 2022. The available funding, in other words, the total appropriation, which was approximately $9.8 million, was not considerably spent down because of the last minute launch of the internship program this summer. So what ended up happening is that there was a lot of money left over in that bank, such that we now, with advance notice, have the ability to really, really do the internship program across the state in a way that is going to possibly double or triple the number of internship opportunities made available to high school students. In order to qualify for these paid internships, you must be legally eligible to work. And the rule for that would be that you're either 16 years of age, or if you're less than 16, that you have obtained a work permit, which you can obtain from your high school administration. Typically, what the process would be is to evaluate your academic performance to see whether you are doing well in school. And then on that basis, if you are doing well in school and that you don't need summer school or you're not behind in credits or anything, then typically your high school principal might be willing to issue a work permit to you, even if you're only 15 years of age. The program was administered and will continue to be administered by county and tribal governments. And they have offered many different internship opportunities within their government organizations, and also in some cases with business partners in the local community. We will be looking to encourage the government operators to reach out more to business partners this year versus what was possible last year, because we're going to have so much more advance notice. Actually, we were only able to give notice of this initiative in the middle of May for a June launch. And it just really wasn't feasible to do a really high quality job of the program launch, but it will be better in the summer of 22 than it was this past summer. So I'm hoping that we are going to be able to place as many, maybe as 5,000 interns across the state versus the 1,300 that were placed this past summer. If you're interested in an internship opportunity, reach out to your county office or county government office or tribal government or tribal office to see if they're participating. Because it's so early in the announcement, I haven't even really announced this formally to all of our county managers and tribal government leaders, such that if you reach out and express interest, then you might even prod them to participate where they didn't in the past, last year. So we have a really good opportunity to really make for an excellent work-based learning environment for the entire youth population in the state of New Mexico. And I really hope that you can see the potential in this program alone. And I'm going to speak to actually the direction of the PED in just a moment, after I tell you about another initiative that was launched with these very same relief funds that were made available by the federal government. The other program is referred to as the Near Peer Tutoring Program. We have had 25 districts and charter schools that have received official notification that they are being awarded program funding for one entire school year or 2 semesters. This program is directed towards high school students that are interested in specifically the education field in any aspect of the education field. So it could be mathematics education, engineering education, any of the STEM fields. If you're interested in pursuing the educational component of that STEM field, then you can certainly participate in the Near Peer Tutoring Program. The goal of this program is to identify academically proficient students who'd like to experience and learn more about what it's like to be in the field of education by tutoring elementary and middle school student peers. So there will be a boot camp, if you will, that will help improve your ability to tutor. Again, back to that same word I used earlier, your confidence in your ability to tutor. And then also, of course, a more broad-based boot camp treatment of education and its theory and its pedagogy, as so-called, so that you get a real good exposure to what it would be like to be a teacher, and then to actually do hands-on experience of working with students to help tutor them, especially in reading and language arts, and also in mathematics. If you're interested in becoming a tutor or obtaining a tutor, again, reach out to your specific school, whether it be a middle school or a high school, and speak or work through your school counselor to find out if your district or charter school was one of the 25 that received an award for this particular initiative. Even if your school has not obtained an award, there is a good possibility that your school may have just such a program that is just not going to be funded through these relief funds. So again, the bottom line is to get involved. If you're interested, ask questions. Don't be bashful, get involved. So before I turn the corner on going back to sort of this perspective about how you approach career interests, career exploration, work-based learning opportunities as a component of both developing skills for the workforce, as well as for advancing your career exploration. The PED, along with education departments at the national level, which is, of course, our United States Department of Education, as well as all of the state departments of education, have identified the critical importance of offering work-based learning opportunities to especially high school students as a means of, again, advancing their career exploration. This will save the society money so that, unlike in my generation, we're not doing this at a college level where basically lots and lots of money is being paid out in college tuition, whereas the students in the colleges are still really don't know what they're interested in doing professionally or for job or for a career. So moving this up into the high school realm has a lot of value that saves money for the society, for the taxpayers of our government and of our country at every level. And so what PED, New Mexico PED, is prepared to do is to begin to identify and now finally begin to comprehensively coordinate all work-based learning activity in conjunction and cooperation and coordination with other state departments, most notably the Department of Workforce Solutions, which, as I mentioned, primarily owns apprenticeships at this particular time. They have a web page that you can go to for apprenticeship opportunities that are typically geared for high school graduates, near to the end of high school completion aged students, and really does not do a lot at this time with internship opportunities, job shadowing opportunities, or many of the other opportunities that are going to become available as time goes on. So the remaining question as we move into this forthcoming legislative session in January, February of 2022 is whether we will obtain specific line item funding to support coordination of these activities for support of work-based learning activities during the school year, and not just via the relief funds, as I've spoken to, that are happening where internship programs are happening over the summer, but rather to be able to continue a work-based learning structure at the school district level, or what we refer to as the local educational agency level, through the school year. If we can get funding from the legislature for that activity, then that will be something that, one, from the PED point of view, I will be spearheading that activity. And then two, that you can expect that work-based learning opportunities are going to become more available and just in general, more well-known as time goes on. Now, this may not help you depending on how old you are and where you are at in the educational system. My own oldest son is graduating high school this year, so he's going to miss out on most of this. But he might be able to participate in the summer internship program this forthcoming summer. And I would encourage you to get interested in that opportunity as well. One thing I didn't really share with you when I spoke to it was just how robust the offerings were. Your county governments are involved in lots and lots of different career areas, everything from engineering, civil engineering, planning streets and roads, just healthcare, the current health crisis with regards to COVID-19 and its variants. Healthcare is a major feature of county government. Engineering, law enforcement. It really is anything that the government is involved with is a potential internship opportunity. Doesn't mean you're going to be cruising around. If you were interested, say, in law enforcement with a police patrol car, there's obvious issues of liability and things that prohibit that type of activity. But again, you can get more information and see the real world of these particular career areas. So again, I encourage you to get interested in the forthcoming summer of 2022 summer enrichment internship program. Any questions about any of that information before I conclude our program? Okay, so again, I just want to make a final pitch to you as individuals for you to take ownership of your situation, take ownership of your life, no matter where you're at. I mean, this is even self-reflexive upon me. It's very easy to become discouraged in our world at any age. I've experienced it in my 20s, I've experienced it in my 30s, and I've even experienced it when I was in my 40s. Now I'm in my 50s, and it's not so much of an issue now. You have a lot of confidence under your belt with that much life experience, but still, you have to own your own situation and where you're at, and you have to be willing to take charge of your situation as your own case manager, and especially in this career capacity. The slide reads for itself. I don't have to necessarily go through every one of these points, but whatever is interesting to you on a curiosity level, it could be something like music, something that maybe seems really pie in the sky for a career opportunity. I would discourage you from making that conclusion, especially at the age that you're at. If there's something that is just really captivating to you by way of a career area interest, entertainment, acting, whatever these pie in the sky types of directions might be, at the age when you're young, when you're in your teens, early 20s, you have a lot of time and a lot of latitude to make changes and to try different things. And if you can just get a handle on your own brain and overcome the fear of failure and the fear of just what people may think of you or the expectations that you think other people have of you. Sometimes, unfortunately, this can even extend into our parental influence. When we do things that our parents don't approve of by way of a career direction, it can be very, very difficult for young people to rise and to continue along in the direction they believe they need to go when they're receiving so much negative reinforcement and discouragement from the people that are in the adult world. But I'd still ask you to take a leap of faith into yourself, take a chance on yourself, get involved in your life, advance your own agenda. And then lastly, as you see in green, think about this, consider this sort of framework by which to evaluate how you think about things and how you approach the problems you experience in your life. Adopt a growth mindset would be my point. And you have a choice to make. Okay. Now, the world is not typically as clean cut and black and white as this choice I'm putting up here. But in this case, this is very much of a black and white kind of thing. You can either choose to have a fixed mindset where you believe that wherever you're at right now is the best that you're going to be, that you're not very talented, I'm not very gifted, I don't do a lot of different things very well, and that's just who I am, that's what I'm going to be. That is a bad place to be, but some people do seem to adopt that framework, that their intelligence is static. So therefore, their behavior follows suit. I'm not going to get involved in challenges that make me feel uncomfortable, or I'm not going to get involved in challenges that make me feel foolish in the eyes of the people around me. If something is really hard, I'll probably give up and then look for somebody else to do it for me, or to pay somebody to do things for me that I can't do for myself. To see that hard work is really pointless because it's not going to make anything any better. It's not going to make me any better. Ignoring any feedback, positive or otherwise. I want you to avoid the negative feedback that you might receive about your dreams or your goals. And for that matter, you don't even have to share that information with people. You can keep that to yourself, what your secret dreams are, what your secret goals are. And then, of course, sometimes if you're in this bad mindset, you're threatened by seeing other people be successful. As a result, you're not going to achieve your full potential. And really, this is referred to as a very deterministic worldview, where you don't have a lot of ability to grow and learn and change and develop. By contrast, you can also go to number 2, this growth mindset, where you understand and it's understood that intelligence can be developed. I am where I'm at today, but that's not where I'm going to be at tomorrow, or 6 months from now, or 6 years from now. You are interested in embracing challenges. You're not backing off because you're afraid to fail. You understand that in order to be successful, you're going to inevitably have to fail first. If you talk to anybody, if you're interested in biographies of any of the people that the society deems to be successful, typically on a financial scale, they're all going to say the same thing, is that you're going to have to go through a series of failures before you really experience success. Those that experience the failures and say, I'm done with it, I'm not going to humiliate myself, are the people that ultimately are going to settle for less than their full potential success. You have to be willing to persist through obstacles. You got to see the hard work as what's necessary. You got to be willing to take feedback, both negative and positive, and just basically keep it on an even scale and just ultimately use it to inform yourself, but not to just immediately go over to what people are telling you. That's critical thinking, right? And also then to be inspired rather than intimidated by other people's success. You can have whatever you want to in the world of work or in the world of entrepreneurship for that matter, if you're willing to just not give up and stay on the mission of understanding that you do have the ability to accomplish and grow, and that it's really very much in your hands. That's all I got for everybody. I hope that you found the presentation to be useful, both informationally and maybe even a little bit inspirationally. My contact information I'm going to put up right now, but are there any last questions or comments? Well,
we wait
thank
for
you.
any questions. Oh no, go
Yes.
ahead. I was going to say, while we wait for any questions, I did make a note that I did put the attendance survey in the chat box. So make sure that everyone completes it for your feedback, but also to get credit for attending today, both for any activity participation points and for any raffle entries. But thank you so much, very much, Mark, for your presentation. We learned a lot today, and we really appreciate you taking out your time with us to share with us today.
My pleasure, and feel free to reach out to me if I can be of any assistance to you as a liaison with the Public Education Department or to answer any specific questions. I do respond to all of my contacts. So if you email me or phone me, I will come back to you.
Thank you. I think we've already ordered some books.
Great.
So
Great.
we're excited for this. So thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.